Hello everybody, the iLord Root here, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program Career Mode. So, we're actually going to be sending up some crew to our station. As it turns out, we don't have the necessary, amount of crew in order to man our station, in order to man our little science lab deal. Well, I figured before we did that, what we'd want to do is we want to adjust the inclination of the space station, because as it turns out, the reason that we are ending up with so much in the way of I suppose of our change in inclination is because of the fact that or a change in orientation rather. We're off inclination just a little bit. And so, how do we rectify this? Well, there's a number of ways we can actually do this. We can, of course, go up here. You'll notice we do have a slight change in our inclination. And basically the idea is that this inclination change is causing us to wobble from side to side, which is not really what we want. We want to get this thing more or less stable. So how do we detect that? Well, what we can do is we'll set this thing up so that we can actually detect the wobble here. You can see we're more or less perpendicular to our ascending and our descending node, and as we move away, you will notice that our retrograde marker here is moving away from us. And so the way we can calculate about how much is by essentially getting this thing, lined up and detecting, how far out it is. And then we'll use RCS to deal with that. So we're getting very close right now to the edge. You can see that's that is more or less moved away. So we can predict that if we multiply that by 2, because we're going to get about the same in the other direction, then what will happen is we can predict that we have a I guess an inclination of about 8 degrees relative to the equator. So we're just going to take care of that by burning upwards a little bit, and as we do that, we're actually going to go a little bit forward here. You can see we're still a little bit inclined, but now we should be a little bit closer here. Now basically what we're doing is we're pushing our retrograde marker onto this region here, and by doing that, by pushing it onto our 270 marker, what we're doing now is we're setting this up so that this guy is going to be more or less on top of that. And you can see we actually have a little way to go there, but we are getting way closer in. Another thing that'll help us too is for us to circularize our orbit. That will account for vertical um, changes as well. So let's just have a look at that, see how close we are. And unfortunately, we're still quite a bit out. We do want to be careful because we don't want to lower our periapsis too much. That would cause for bad things to happen, like the space station, for instance, crashing into the surface. The thing that makes this method sort of difficult is that, and we actually may be a little bit too far inclined at this point. Yeah, I think we are definitely... It's difficult to tell, but I think we're more inclined than we ought to be. But it does seem like we are fairly close by here. We're just going to see if we can't find that node. As you can see, we're now at the point to where we're perpendicular to our deal. And we haven't moved much. I think this is probably a good sign that we've more or less gotten our inclination issues sorted out here. I mean, that would seem to be the case anyway. We could, in fact, maybe push this over just a little bit. Let's move the Kethane map out of the way first of all. Let's see if that seems to be more or less our node, so it's difficult for me to see. I think we're a couple degrees off. But I think we're more or less on the mark now. It appears to be the case anyway. We'll just observe the wobble now, see if we have much wobble in our orbit. And we appear to be pretty much on the mark. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get rid of the vertical wobble. And that'll be pretty easy for us to do. We'll just set down a maneuver here. First of all, I'm going to bring this up to 20. Which shouldn't be hard at all for us to pull off. That is 20 something. I'm gonna get as close in as I can. Because we don't have long. But the Obert effect is going to help us out here. And that will That will bring us in very nicely. We can just, we could just move on forward and circularize. So, yeah, we're going to, bring this guy up just a little bit. And that is about 20 or so. So now we can come up here and do the same. Now we don't want to bring it up nearly that much, but let's see, our new apsis is 21. We want to bring this into, way lower than it is now. $20.50 versus... That's, not a bad little deal. I think, we'll be just fine if we do it this way. In fact, I'm going to move this marker in just a little bit. Apoapsis is now, looks like, I wish they made this easier to read. 2106. That is not bad at all. And we have deviated just a little bit, it looks like. But we've taken out a lot of the grunt work in this, which is nice because this will make docking a bit easier for sure. Our space station isn't going to get, these weird rotations happening. And we will right now get ready to burn. And let's just make that correction. I guess maybe now we'll put it into practice. This is very slightly pushing up our apsis, it looks like. And we did deviate just very slightly, it looks like. Unfortunately, now our apoapsis has moved, so that's going to be a bit of an issue. And it doesn't help that we're, wobbling in the manner that we are. I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is nearly circular. I mean, part of the issue, though, is that even this small amount of wobble will cause us headaches, and, in the end. So that's something that we're going to have to worry about. I think that's going to be good for now. We're simply wobbling too much for us to affect much more of a change. But that will, if we, go back here to our north, we should more or less remain pointing north without much of a variation in either inclination or, I guess, the wobble. And I'd say that is pretty good. We're going to, double check this in a while with our next craft, which is, a crew vehicle, believe it or not. So, as I said, we have to transfer crew over in our general direction. And because of that, we actually have to think about, how this, how we're going to get them there. So I've constructed, this ship called CTV that will contain our first, regular crew. And that will help us quite a bit. So, yeah, let's get these guys going. You can see we've added a flight engineer, which is going to be very useful for us. And with flight engineer, we're going to have the benefit that we can look at our orbital velocity, and we're going to want to get at an inclination of about maybe 6 degrees or so in order to, meet up with the Minmus. And so this will help us, in addition to, getting our station properly set up. This will actually help us to some degree also get our get our inclination correct on our station as well. So let's just go ahead and I think we want to crank up the throttle a bit. Not too much, just a little bit. And then we will aim for Minmus once we get out of the atmosphere. We want to bring this back down just a little bit, as we're about to hit the the terminal velocity. Now, because of the efficiency of the stage, we actually get a lot of thrust out of it, and it makes it difficult to get a good orbit if we're not careful. Well, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to leave it about half power when we're done. Maybe crank it up a little bit. But otherwise, I'm not going to worry too much about, getting this thing up to full speed. Because we're going to drop these tanks at probably, I want to say somewhere on the order of 11, 12 kilometers or so. And we're already going plenty fast. But we'll begin our gravity turn shortly. Maybe about now. And so we'll be dropping those tanks very soon. And let's go ahead, we'll increase our inclination just a little bit. Because we don't have to be right at 6, but you know, we're going to want to be pretty close to it. It'll save us some fuel. And while we're, you know, at this advantage, we might as well raise our inclination just a little bit. Maybe even our thrust. I think if we raise our thrust, we'll be okay. But we'll bring up our apoapsis to about 80 degrees. Or not 80 degrees, 80 kilometers rather. And we will do our best to keep our inclination within that that 6 degree window or so. And so this is nice because we'll have the map, you know, we won't have to refer back to the map view as often. I mean, certainly we'll want to for the maneuver nodes, but you know, that will help us just a little bit. And we're actually getting fairly close here. I mean, we're getting a lot of bang for a buck on this fuel. So, I mean, this is a pretty good, you know, launch vehicle so far that we've got. Assuming you don't overdo it. Because overdoing it could be pretty bad. But at any rate, you'll see we do, we are getting a pretty decent inclination change. I'm going to bring that up just a little bit. Just so that, you know, we do get a bit of a periapsis out. And there we go. We might actually want to increase that just a little bit, because that will be going down shortly. But as you can see, we have a 4.7 degree inclination. which is about right where we want to be. And this will come down quite a bit. So we can we can now circularize pretty easily at this point. And we'll just wait to get up into our atmosphere before we set up any maneuver planning. But we're about there right now. In fact, we should be right at that point. So we'll bring it up to about 80k or so. And we're not really on our maneuver node all that well, are we? That'll be 80 versus 82. We've burned just a little bit too much. So that is, that's a good spot right there. Let's, I'm just gonna go ahead and jettison this fuel tank. That will push us in the right direction. And we might as well deploy our solar panels as well. So we are doing fairly well, actually. We'll just bring that up to our, to these last couple of seconds here. We'll get lined up. And we'll bring this down. And I'd say that's circular enough. It's not really all that circular, but it's a bit difficult to judge sometimes. So we will target Minmus. And we're actually a little bit too inclined here. So I didn't really do much to save us in the way of fuel. Nonetheless, we should have more than enough fuel to get there. So let's just go ahead and do that. I wonder what it's measuring our inclination relative to. At any rate, we've got a 19-second burn on that, so I'm going to start burning around 9 and 10 seconds. That's actually probably good enough for us. That's 0.5. Maybe I can bring that down just a little bit. And let's get ourselves an intercept. And so our encounter will be coming up pretty soon, I imagine. And the question is, how close are we going to be? I think that will put us on the right side, though. So let's just go ahead, we'll get ready to burn. And we will hopefully be within Minmus's orbit pretty soon. So we're coming right up on that. And that's going to take us, what appears to be, I'm going to say that's about 37 seconds that we're going to want to start burning at. So we'll bring up the map view for this. And that shouldn't take too terribly long, I don't think. Now, at this point, you may be thinking we're actually getting pretty close to running out of fuel. It certainly does appear that way. But, in reality, we are actually doing fairly well on fuel. Because we will get more delta V out of this. As soon as we dump some of this fuel. Now, unfortunately for us, we've ended up on the wrong side. However, I think, well, that's no good. We are a little bit too far out. There we go. Well, let's just move on in and attempt to dock. And let's see, we are unfortunately on the wrong side. At least as far as I can tell. Yeah, we are on the wrong side at this point. If we look at our... Or are we? We may actually be okay. We'll just, we'll bring this guy in. I mean, I think this may actually be okay. Now, we aren't going to be able to get, you know, much in the way of, much in the way of our, orbit, I guess, but we'll see. We'll just, we'll wait for this guy to line up. And how inclined are we anyway? We're actually fairly close in, from what I can tell. And that would be, of course, a 13-second burn that we're going to have to do. I'm going to start burning about now. And so I guess while we're at this, we're going to add a circularization maneuver. And we will, that's the ascending node. We want to pull our descending node down to about 0.1. And, maybe 0.2. And we'll get this guy circularized. That's 309 versus 316. $315. Is there more we can do here to, I guess, drop our inclination? It wouldn't appear so. But this is going to be about 7 hours worth of, you know, worth the travel time. And we have about 35 minutes after these guys been waiting for 7 hours for the, you know, the burn to be scheduled. And it's not going to be much of a burn. It's going to, you know, it'll be, a very, very slight burn, I imagine. There we go. So that is, what I would call a fairly circular orbit. And we can attempt to get this thing on down. And then after that, once we match our inclination, we're going to want to, get this guy more or less, more or less, set up. So let's just, we'll try that. We're at 0.0 now, so the thing we're going to want to do is try to get ourselves an encounter. That's a separation of 9 kilometers. I don't know if at this present time we'll be able to do any better. Maybe if we pull in just a little bit more. Unfortunately, our orbit is sort of wobbling around. 3.9, that is good so far. Maybe we can bring it in even closer. 3.5. And we'll just go ahead, we'll quick save here and get the sky going. So we're at about 3.1 degrees of inclination, which isn't too terribly bad. In fact, we could, I think we could very easily correct that. And it'll take some RCS to do, but there we go. It looks like we're back at 3.9. Can we bring that in any closer? 3.1, 2.8, 2.7. Even out here, that might be kind of difficult to correct for. 1.3 and 1.1. That is going to be our encounter, I think. And we can do that, I would imagine, fairly soon. In fact, we may, instead of burning our fuel, I think we'll just burn our CS on this one. How close are we? 1.0 kilometers. That is not a bad start. Can we get ourselves any closer? Well, not that way for sure. In this case, I'm just going to wait for us to get maybe like a minute in or so. because we're going to want to burn a lot of delta V. And at this point, you can see we've already got our target. We just need to burn retrograde once we get close enough. And that may be happening soon. In fact, I'm fairly certain it's happening soon. There we go. We'll just point ourselves in towards the station, go in at maybe 2 meters per second or so, or however long it takes for us to get our closest deal. That's 0.1 kilometers. So that will be more or less. We're going to want to be careful here. We're moving away fairly quickly. Let's just see how close this is going to end up. I mean, this actually is fairly close by for us. So I'm just going to brake. And we're going to move on in at maybe not too fast. You know, maybe 1 kilometer a second or so. And you could see we've drifted a bit, but not as bad as we have, you know, previously. So we'll get ourselves oriented properly here. And let's get ourselves, you know, going forward just a little bit. Make sure too that we're controlling from here. And so while we're at this, I'll just speed up just a little bit. I think we're doing just fine on docking. So there we go. Let's just look real quick at our orbit. See if we can't identify the if we can identify the nodes here. And you know, I'm actually willing to bet that we are fairly close in. So we'll just we'll just go ahead. We'll bring down our inclination just a little bit more. And once we do that, we will be fairly close in, I think. Enough to where, when we circularize this orbit, which, will be happening soon. You know, is our inclination changing? Yeah, we've hit our ascending node, it looks like. Let's just control from here. It'd be kind of cool if they would show us our longitude and latitude. I think at this point we are about to hit, we're about to hit, our thingy. And we should be slightly to the left here. So I'm gonna see if I can lower that just a bit. And again, we don't have to be perfect, but we do want to get our inclination as spot on as possible. That's a 0.3 degree inclination. I think we can leave it at that for now. We'll just, we'll bring this guy down just a hair. And given the fact that we're flexing so much, this may be a little bit easier said than done. But, that having been said, we are fairly close by as well. There we go. Now our eccentricity is so low that we should not wobble at all. Let's just get back um, let's get back to a northerly direction and hope that we don't accidentally break off this craft. By the way, how are we doing on our CS? We do have a fair amount of it. It looks like it's doing an even split on that, which is not bad. But yeah, now we should just spin, around laterally, which I can deal with. So, let's go back to the Space Center. Actually, first, let's do some crew assignment. Now, where did these guys come out? I bet you he's way out over here, which was not my goal. It'll have to do, unfortunately. And we'll stick this guy in the crew canister, at least for now. And we'll board this. We need one more guy in here. Now, red brick's up here in the command module, so I'm going to stick, I guess it's Heinlein? I guess named after the prolific science fiction writer. Anyway, we're going to stick him in this lab as well, and then we'll send out whoa. Well, it looks like he's trying to show off his ability to do tricks. So 8 days in orbit. So far, I mean, this has turned out to be a fairly eventual, I guess, aside from the deal where we had to adjust the inclination more. It's been fairly uneventful, which is great. We'll take our other dude. In fact, we'll take some old hardware that we've constructed. The MS lander or whatever. This guy is just about perfect for Minmus, because he has just enough fuel, and he also has a fair amount of firepower to get up there. So we're just going to get this guy going. And we may actually, we're gonna have to cut down on the throttles some, I'm sure. But we're actually going to do fairly well here. I mean, I think we're going to have more than enough Delta V to get us exactly where we want to go. crank up the throttle just a bit. We're about to drop some dead weight anyway. But that will be happening sooner rather than later. So we're unfortunately going to have to, you know, go to map view in order to get the most out of this. I didn't put Kerbal Engineer on here. But this spacecraft, as it turns out, has just enough in the way of Delta V to get to Minmus. We'll just crank up that throttle. So now, we are going to, do this, you know, we're gonna move up just a bit and get, the most out of our inclination change. How are we doing on fuel, by the way? We still got plenty. And so, you know, with any amount of luck, we'll be bringing out our inclination. You know, quite to quite a degree. Are we pointing? We're pointing the opposite direction. We want to be pointing down. There goes our secondary stage down there. Bring out our apoapsis just a little bit. And there we go. We'll just, while we're doing our burn here, well, first of all, we're going to circularize our orbit. That would be a good thing for us to do. So 53, maybe should have waited just a little bit before I started drawing that out, but that's okay. So apoapsis is 84, 81 versus 86. 84 versus 83. Let's just, while we're waiting to bring this up, let's just raise our inclination just a little bit. It wasn't the most efficient I've done, but it'll work. And that is about an 18-second burn, so we're going to burn at 9 or so. And there we go. We'll just need to find... I hope I did not screw this up again. Yes, I did screw it up quite a bit. I should have been burning north the entire time. Well, we'll bring that down a fair amount. And we're past that, it looks like. We need to get to this descending node and raise north. I'll take another 280 meters per second at delta V. But I mean, we have plenty of fuel, so that's maybe not such a big deal for us. I mean, truth be told, we actually have an absurd amount of fuel. So we'll get that burning at about 10 or so. And with any amount of luck, this should put us in the desired orbit. There we go. So, where are we now? We're getting ready to burn towards towards this guy. And I think this will more or less, you know, I'm not entirely sure, to tell you the truth, if we're on if the equatorial plane is the same as the orbital plane for Minmus. That could actually be quite useful to find out. And we can actually make that measurement knowing how far off we are. It would be useful for us because then we could easily make a correction doing that. but we'll be close by fairly soon. That will require, it looks like, 34 seconds worth of burn time. That will make it quite easy for us. We'll just get poised for making this burn here, and we will just go ahead and do it. And that should not take too terribly long. That will, I reckon, only take another half minute or so. Now, unfortunately, we are drifting just a little bit. Okay, we way overdid that. We got a moon encounter. Or did we? No, we got a Minmus encounter. With the periapsis that's just a little bit higher than I would prefer. In fact, it's high enough to where I'm not even sure if we're going to end up in a retrograde orbit or not, so I'm going to bring that down just a little bit. I think that will do it for us. We'll quick save just in case. But with that having been said, we'll we'll move on over. And we'll attempt to dock. So let's go ahead, we'll zoom in here, we'll bring the sky close by. So we're 0.2 off initially. About 300 sounds good to me. Let's select Minmus Station real quick. We'll set that as our target. So as it turns out, the orbital plane is in fact not the it's not the whatchamacallit, the equatorial plane, which means we're going to probably have to be a little careful. Anyway, this is going to take about 7 seconds of burn time. Now, fortunately for us, we have plenty of fuel in this thing despite the huge inclination change that I had to make earlier. Another fortunate thing for us is that we are going to, we're going to have, a little bit more efficient of, a burn for this inclination change. As you can see, it's only 15 meters per second, a delta V. Let's see, that was originally 14.5. We were 2.2 degrees off. So that's I guess at a 0.0 orbit, we're going to be 14.3 degrees off. Not such a good deal for us. That's okay, it won't matter too much. I mean, it'll, really all that will matter is that we end up with the, enough fuel in order to do this sort of thing, and I think we shall. So let's see, what is our ascending node at now? This time I'm not going to bother making this inclination exact, because we don't really need to. I mean, it's, what is that, 320, 310, 318, that's good enough for us. I mean, we could, I guess, bring down in this burn. We could bring our inclination down just a little bit. But in reality, I mean, the inclination is so close that we're not going to be able to do much, I guess, to change it. So we will get this thing docked. And then we'll carry it on in, I guess, to our burn point. That is close enough. So let's try to get an encounter with the space station if we can. So that is 1.5 kilometers of separation. Do I want to mess with that any? I sincerely doubt that I do. But it may be worth messing with. 1.6. I mean, the nice thing is going to be that, that if we are able to bring this in just a little bit, that we will don't change our inclination. That's not going to help us at all. But I was going to say, at any rate, that the nice thing is going to be that, we're going to be fairly close in on this thing. And with another 2 hours to go, I mean, I think we'll be okay. Now, I believe the question is going to be at this point, are we going to do our correction with with the steel. And I think we'll at least use RCS part of the time to bring this down. I mean, this is still a little bit further out than I would like. .5 kilometers. I'm not sure that that's going to be something I'm going to be able to beat, so I'm going to take it. The main concern for us, of course, is being able to brake when we need to. That's going to be, believe it or not, quite important. Because we don't really want to fly too far past the space station, I don't think. But I'm gonna, knowing that RCS on this craft takes about 1 second per, well, maybe not knowing that. Let's just see how close our encounter is. 0.4. I think that's something I can live with. Unfortunately, we're going to have the Obert effect to help us, so we're pretty close by right now. Let's get close to that 0.5, kilometers. And it looks like we have way overshot it, despite my better intentions. And let's null out that velocity. Just a little bit. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and say that we're wanting to, we'll want to get rid of the stage here. and we'll do that briefly. We no longer really need it, and as you can see, this thing is going to very quickly crash back down into the surface. Now, that does unfortunately mean that it gave us a bit of a push that we didn't need. And we're just going to, at this point, go in our... This is in fact probably a little bit too fast for us. Now let's see. Why are we off inclination? That makes zero sense to me. There's no reason why we should be rotating in this manner. Oh well, we'll set this guy as a target. And we'll try not to crash into it. That would be unfortunate. In fact, I'm going to bring down our velocity just a little bit. And I think we're probably at this point, we're close enough in to where it makes sense to slow down. So let's see, we're going to control from here. And we're going to get ourselves docked with this guy. Maybe. There we go. Let's just get ourselves lined up, and we will begin the docking. Maybe we actually want to pull back a little bit. I don't know how close we're going to end up when we get close enough in. And, yeah, we're about to... I think we're about to hit this thing pretty soon. That we'll go ahead and use fine control here. and get this up to about 2 meters per second, or 2.2 meters per second rather. And I think that should more or less get us. I don't really see how anything could go wrong at this point. So there we go. I guess the next episode I'll start actually doing science. I guess just to be on the safe side, just in case we forget, I will go ahead and, refuel this. I'll also refuel, these guys as well. Even though, even though it will take, just a little bit more time. Fortunately, whoa. I was gonna say, fortunately, these tanks are so big that we have most of the monopropellant that we'll need. We might need to send up refueling at some point if we don't get Kethane established on this base, but if not, if we don't need to do this, then I think that'll be cool too. We're bringing this guy in. We have just about a fully manned station at this point. I guess we could bring up another 4 or so Kerbals to fit into the crew tank above. And we may have Jebediah come just for that purpose to inspect the station. But until then, this has been Thy Lord Root, and I will see you later.